Yeah, and welcome to the effortless electronic music finishing system. My name is Mark. I go by OC, and that's my artist name. I make jazzy dubstep. I teach people music production for a living. I do music full time. We go through everything: composition, production, mixing, mastering, social media, how to build a brand, how to finish songs. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. We're going to talk about how I've finished a ton of music myself, how I've been doing this for really years now, and especially in the last year. And yeah, we're going to go through the four stage system that you need to be following. And if you're not following it, you're undoubtedly not getting the most of your time. So let's get into it. This is mainly for EDM producers. If you're an EDM producer, you make dance music, could be any genre really. This is for you. Okay, so let's get started. Yeah, so there's going to be four main stages that we want to think about: composition, production, mixing, and mastering. You can see the basic explanations of those here. Composition, we're going to write the song and give it a structure. Next, once we do that, we're going to fill that structure with sounds. 90% of the quality of your song is going to come from these two phases right here. Because if you do this right, by the time we get to mixing, which is just balancing the sounds, your sound is just going to sound so good that like you're not even going to really need to do that much mixing and mixing by the time you get here. Well, you're set. At that point, it is really just, I was going to say it's the icing on the cake. It's not even that. The icing's already on the cake. By the time you're here, if you do this right, you follow this process well, you do these in the way that I'm going to show you today in this video, your shit is going to be so clean and loud and polished that you're just going to laugh at how little mastering you actually need. So let's get into it. Well, there. We'll kind of jump around the mirror board here, and we're going to start a composition. So what is composition? Well, first of all, let me tell you why you're stuck. You're stuck because you're writing one idea at a time. When you write one idea at a time, all you're doing is writing an 8-bar loop. If you're getting stuck in an 8-bar loop, this is how to not do that anymore. So what is an idea? Well, an idea is just one part of a song. For example, where the heck are my arrangement sections? An intro, for example, a drop, for example, a breakdown, or even a build-up. These are just pieces of an arrangement. These are pieces of a song structure, right? We're going to come back to this, so don't worry about that just now. But intro, breakdown, drop, you know what these are. You're already probably making these. The issue is you're only making one at a time. So just start making two, because guess what's going to happen? You make a drop, and then you stop it after you have your 8-bar loop, you have your 8-bar drop, and then you go make an intro. Well, guess what? You are now writing a song. Guess what? You're now developing the habit of composing, because you're not just making one idea, you're making two. And a song is going to need at least two. So what you're going to do is now create a structure. You're going to write at least two distinct ideas together, related by motif. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Okay. And once you really want to start producing the song, that's how you know you're doing this right. Yeah, so we're going to write two ideas at a time, which again is just the same as crafting two of those arrangement sections, right? If you like to start with a drop, all you got to do is start with your drop, make your drop. That's great. Add on an intro now. Once you make the drop and you want to go crazy, that's when you stop yourself. Once you really want to produce the hell out of that song, out of that drop, stop, go write an intro. Boom. You're now becoming a songwriter. You're now developing the skill of writing songs, because a song just is going to have at least two ideas at a time that you wrote at the same time. Now, what do I mean when I say related by a motif? Here's what I mean. What is a motif? So a motif is just a recurring element used in a work of art. So in music, here's the best definition that I like. It's a short, distinctive, and often melodic idea. Something memorable. But what makes something memorable? The length. Not only the length though, but let's talk about the length first. Because think about it. If a arrangement of notes, if a bunch of notes in a row, a bunch of musical notes in a row is too long, it's not going to be as memorable. Because like think about it this way. I'm going to give you two examples with my mouth here. Example one. Okay. Example two. Dum bum 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 bum. Which one's more memorable? Well, the second one, right? Because it's short. And so the length dictates how distinctive it is and how memorable it is. So a motif is typically a short piece of notes that is repeated throughout an artistic a work of art. You know what I'm saying? And so the key is for it to be short. And then what you do is you make a melody from the motif, and that's how you start to write the song. Here's a few rules for melody writing. We're not going to get too much into that in this video because I want to talk about the 4 phases, keep this holistic, talk about production, talk about mixing, talk about mastering. We're going to come to all of those later in the video, but this is really important to get right. And so essentially what you're going to start to do is have the motif be in your intro and have it be in your drop. And as you're doing that, you're going to notice like, oh crap, well, I have this melody in the intro, but then maybe you take the let me say the motif. You have this motif in the intro, but then you take the motif and you put it in your drop too. You know, let's take that same motif from the Beethoven example. Bum, 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 bum. Maybe on a dubstep drop, now you have on the drop, wow, 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 like made out of a bass. And so now what's happening is there's a cohesive song idea, a cohesive motif linking the 2 sections together. And so now you're really starting to develop a song. Again, in this phase, you're going to want to make these decisions too. What tempo is it? What key are you in? Unless you're like really experienced at this, which, you know, at that point you can kind of be more free with this type of thing. Just stick to one key, stick to one tempo. Reference tracks are super helpful too. I'm not going to talk about those like crazy. But the biggest thing now to figure out is the structure of the full song. Let me find an example of a song as I'm doing this, and this is just going to help us explain it. Okay, so let's talk about, let's use Chameleon. That's a good example. It's one of my best known songs, I would say. So after you like have these 2 arrangement sections, right? These 2 ideas still in the composition phase, you're simply gonna link them together. And how do we do that? Well, that is up to you. That's where we start producing. But the way you're gonna be able to, what is this? Looks like a little hair. The way that you're gonna be able to easily link these together is by creating a structure. And so now here's where you're gonna have the arrangement created, and usually, oh no, looks like my contact isn't working. Usually what you're gonna do is use either like locators in Ableton or I think they're called markers in FL Studio. But the idea is we're gonna just create this full song with these 8 measure structural blocks. Come on, contact. I'm trying to make a YouTube video here. We're not gonna talk about this too much today, but so let's come here. So like, for example, intro, build up, drop, breakdown, build up 2, drop 2, outro. And then your song is over. So what you're gonna do after you've done these 2 initial ideas is you're gonna create this structure. And now the structure is gonna allow you to finish the song very quickly. Why? Because you can see the finish line. See, before you didn't have a structure, right? All you had is you kind of like, you have your drop, you have your intro, that's great and all, but now what you gotta do is boom, intro, build, drop, second part of the drop, third part of the drop even. This is like a longer arrangement, so honestly might not have been the best example. Maybe we can do a reba. You know what? Fuck it. We'll just leave this. So break, part of the break here. So I think you get the idea. Is like we just want to have these defined. And so now let's say I've made this structure, but then I only have my 2 ideas. I only have my drop and I only have my intro. Well, now I know where the finish line is, and it's right here. And so all I have to do to finish this song, to produce this song, is fill in these boxes with other boxes. And that is how we get into production. So production is gonna be what you do next. Now that we have the structure, we're gonna fill the structure with sounds. So let's get into that a little bit. Production, is gonna involve sound design. It's gonna involve processing your sounds. It's gonna involve, and I should have said this second, sound selection. Again, it's filling the arrangement with sound selection and design. I wanna explain this like you're 5. It's literally, you have these boxes that were made from your structure, start, build, drop, and now we're going up and down now. left and right and up and down, because we're filling in the arrangement with sounds that we like. Guess what? That's how you find your unique sound, because you like certain sounds. To tease you with mindset for a second, you wouldn't want to do this if you weren't meant to do this. You have this calling to make music, therefore you have a unique sound. Whether or not you've discovered it yet is irrelevant. That unique sound is waiting to be uncovered by you, the artist. So the way that you do that, well, you just start using sounds that you like, right? I mean, that is literally how you unlock a unique sound. And then, of course, we just make sure the sounds fit well and sound good. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about now as well. As we go, left to right, filling in these sections, and then up and down within the sections, what we're going to do is sound design. What we're going to do is sound selection. And what we're going to really focus on here is the creative vision of the track and making good decisions with instruments to fill up that vision. So we could even say selection. Actually, we're gonna leave that as design, because I do want to talk about sound design. And I thought I had my instruments in here somewhere. Where are we? Bear with me. We're just trying to find. Okay, never mind. So look, like you really are wanting to think about, like, what is the sound that you're going for as you're making a decision. Do I need strings here? Do I need an instrument here? Do I need a bass here? Do I need an effect here? There's all these different types of sounds. Okay, and then in production, we're thinking about all these things: waveforms, shaping, sound design, some volume, EQ, compression, some mono and stereo, reverb and delay, stuff like saturation. And the goal is to figure this out. How do we get our production to flow well? How do we get it to have great sound design or selection? And how do we just get it to sound cool? Like, it should sound cool. Great production sounds cool. Great sound design and selection, we're kind of going to group those together. It sounds subjectively good and musical and consonant. That's really important. That doesn't necessarily mean it sounds clean. It could be gritty and robot-y and crazy, but it still needs to be musical. Okay, that's the first thing. It fills the frequency spectrum in a satisfying and effective way. That doesn't mean everything has to fill up everywhere, but if it needs to fill up everywhere, it better. And it better do that well. And that kind of gets into this third point of using compression to attain that goal. Now, how do we do this? Again, we start to learn as we are producing songs, as we are learning the skill set of producing. We start to learn the tools at our disposal. And we start to practice by asking, like, what sound do I need at what time? What is the creative vision behind the track? And that's production. And that is something that comes with time. If you want it to come with less time, check out the link in my bio. Like I said, not my bio, in the link in the description of this video, I can help you get there way faster. You can see client results as well from people who have already worked with me and they've gotten there way faster. You can hear from them yourself. But let's talk about sound design for a minute, because again, that's just another part of production of, like, if you're gonna create a sound instead of use a sound that already was created, here's just a good rule of thumb for you to follow. What is the sound? Is it like a pad? Is it a pluck? Is it a bass? And if it's a bass, is it growly or a stab or a sustain or a glitch? Like, what is the bass? Is it a super saw? Is it a riser? Is it a drum that you need? And then consider the initial ADSR. In English, let's think about instruments for a minute. Okay, so let's see. So, like, this is all you're doing, as if that's like a small thing, right? So, in an orchestra, there's the conductor. So you're kind of like the conductor, and you have all these instruments at your disposal. Now, different instruments are performed in different ways, right? And there's like different ways to denote how these instruments are performed, right? If you're a violinist, you have your bow and it's like moving against the strings, and it could be like cha 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 cha, or it could be like da 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 da, or like da 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 da. It could be like a pluck, right? But if you're playing a trombone, that's gonna be a little different. Come on, give me a trombone. Cello, same idea, right? Or like Come on, man, give me a trombone, bro. Okay, like an oboe. There you go. Like an oboe is going to be a different performance from a violin, right? Because it's like you have the double reed and they're playing with their mouth and it's not like a bow against a string. So the actual mechanics of the performance of the instrument are quite different. But long story short, what all these have in common? What these have in common, let's go here, is there's silence and then there's sound and then there's silence again. And the only question is, how does that happen? So that's kind of we get into these ADSR envelopes. How much time does it take to go from silence to the loudest part of the sound? And then at times there can be a difference between the maximum and like the main body of the sound. Because like think about the violinist, right? Right? There's like a maximum, but then there's like a sustain, right? So there could be a difference between the max and the sustain. Not always, but sometimes. And then at the end of the sound, how long does it take to stop performing the sound and return back to silence? So that's what ADSR is telling us. And so that's kind of what I mean here is when you're thinking about your sounds and your EDM productions, like what is it like doing with a volume? Is it like really fast? Is it coming in out of nowhere? Is it like coming in slowly over time and getting a lot louder and then it's getting quieter and quieter? Or is it coming in really loud and then going away eventually? Like, you know what I'm saying? So you just start to think about these things. And the type of sound usually is going to determine that in a lot of ways. Like, for example, if you're going for a dubstep drop and you're doing like a punchy, full, bright growl, usually that's going to have a pretty short amount of time between where you're silent and where you're full power. Because we need that growl to be in the listener's face immediately so they headbang, right? But if you're doing something like strings, maybe you're doing a slower interlude or slower breakdown or slower intro, and you have like this like lush string section, now we're thinking about a longer attack to really let the strings kind of creep in, right? And so it depends on what you're doing. But if you're doing bass sound design, if you're making something like a growl, you're using Serum, generally speaking, use simple waveforms, especially if you're newer. Use simple waveforms. Think about the shape and then try to make that shape with some sort of filter movement. To simplify it, I would use like a low pass, just like wah, 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 kind of think something like that. And then add some distortion and add some compression. And those things are gonna bring out the fullness and start to make these sounds achieve this. Because a big part of what makes something fill the frequency spectrum in a way that is satisfying and effective is the number of harmonics within the sound and hence the fullness that the sound attains. So if you can add some distortion and compression, that's only going to help with that, assuming you'd use it well. That also takes practice, of course, but again, that's just one of the tools in our toolbox that we learn and we get better at over time. Saturation, distortion, kind of the same vein. Not going to really talk about the difference between those two in this video, but again, the whole point of these things is to attain more fullness, richness, color, intrigue, excitement, character, these things that make music interesting, the things that you love EDM for in the first place, right? There's fullness in all your favorite tracks. There's fullness, there's richness, there's color, there's excitement, and this comes from having a lot of information. But not just a lot of information, also a lot of the right information, which again, that just comes with time and practice. And so as you do this, as again, we're halfway through, we're at the point of the production right now. So as you are like doing this iteratively now, and you start to implement this into your process and you're writing the song and you're giving it structure and you're doing this a few times a month with different songs, you get the reps in and you start to get better at all of these things. You start to get better at production and sound design. And what you're going to find is that your unique sound does emerge. And here's how it's going to. You're going to save and reuse and evolve your sounds. Make patches out of them. Make instrument racks if you're using Ableton. Save them. Save them all the same place. Define what you like. Like what inspires you? Like what do you really like to listen to? And what makes you want to make music? Who are your favorite artists? Make a list of these. And honestly, you're going to find the more diverse inspirations that you create from, you're going to find the more unique your sound becomes. So the more the better. And guard your energy. Figure out like what is holding you back in your life. Are you playing too many video games? Are you smoking too much weed? What is taking your energy? Stop letting it take your energy. And I promise you, with 100% certainty, I have no doubt about this, your sound will just emerge. Assuming you're following this process, you're putting the work in, you're making songs, it's just going to happen. Because again, you want to do this, right? Universe isn't random. We did not come here for like a life of struggle or to not have the money we want. Like this shit's not random. You want to do this. You want to make music for a reason, and the reason is because you have a unique sound to express, and we need you to express that sound. And so this is gonna help you get there. So yeah, that's production. Real quick, as you know, just to talk about this too. Here's a general order of operations for FX. Usually there's going to be two main purposes for using FX in post-processing, and these are going to be related to production, related to mixing. So production, nothing's really off limits. Mixing, which we're going to talk about next, it's usually a little more intentional, and that can take a bit more skill. This honestly takes a lot of skill too, but it just comes with practice. Again, if you need help, check out the website in the description. Can definitely help you get there faster. I've worked with 80 people now. Yeah. So let me know. But so you're going to have your input sound. Usually here's where you do like your production effects. So saturation, boosting, color EQ, phaser, disperser, anything else you like. Then some compression, then some, if you're going to add compression with spatial effects, make it wider, stuff like that. Then is where you usually do your mixing EQ, and then wet effects. Typically delay before reverb, but you can switch it, just be intentional. And then your sidechain, which usually won't happen on the same chain, but then that's like the output. So yeah, just a little bit on the order of operations there. We did talk about sound design as well. And let's get into mixing now. So now that you've like filled the structure with sounds, assuming you did create sound design, assuming that you were intentional with all the sounds you added, and assuming you followed these core rules of amazing production, your shit should be sounding pretty good. Now, I do want to make an important stipulation. We're going to pretend I didn't say that. Mixing is a dedicated time for balance and mixing. Like this stage of mixing, this is not the only time that we're going to mix, but it is the time that we're going to only mix. So there is mixing that happens during the production phase, to get your side chaining to get your side chaining set up, to get your drums getting set up. And I'm going to kind of talk about that in this mixing phase too, and put this all together now. You're going to kind of see like, okay, here is like really what makes this happen like very fast, on top of the fact that you've written the song, you have the motif, you have the structure, all these things are already working for you, right? So mixing is all about balance, and balance is all about volume. Okay. And here are the main three tools of volume. Gain is just when is it, EQ, where is it, compression, how is it. But I'm going to tell you right now, focus on this, because volume, as in like an actual volume fader itself, is going to take you the furthest. And then EQ, and then think about compression. But I'm telling you, get incredible at production, choosing sounds, designing sounds, and using volume. And I almost guarantee you're pretty much not even going to need mixing EQ or compression. And at that point, like, again, it's just gonna sound so good already. But again, an amazing mix has amazing focus and amazing balance at all time windows throughout the mix. In English, there is great focus and there's a great balance throughout the whole song. So focus is just this. Focus is like this concept of what is loudest at all times. So there should really be one main element throughout the whole song at every arrangement section in the song. What should the listener be focused on? Is it a saxophone? Is it a vocal? Is it strings? Is it a like a crazy drop bass? We can only really focus on one sound at a time. So all you're gonna do is think about how good is the focus, and then how do we adjust the balance, which is just the relationship of all the volumes and the volume faders of each sound to each other sound in the mix. How are we gonna then adjust the balance to attain better focus? Okay. One other aspect to this is that amazing mixes have amazing envelopes and articulation. But guess what? These aren't mixing. These are production, remember? Because remember when we talked about the ADSR? So again, if you're really intentional, I'm telling you, if you're really intentional during the production with these ADSRs and the relationships of these sounds to silence, your mix is already going to be so amazing by the time you get to the formal mix sound that you're going to laugh. You're going to see it. You're going to see it. So here's how you're going to do your mix down. Essentially, you're going to create a copy of like your first project. You're gonna bounce everything to audio. I'm gonna kind of run through this pretty fast because it's pretty in depth, but I just want to give you like the high level overview so you can start doing this today. Like we said, all you're gonna do is you're gonna go throughout the entire mix and you're gonna ensure that there's great focus and balance. That's it. That's it. You're gonna listen to all layers, ask, go to each section, the intro, the build up, the drop, ask how's the focus, how's the balance. Make sure your low end is in check. We're not gonna talk about that. It's a little beyond the scope of this video. Again, if you need help with that, feel free to check out what I do, but we're gonna do the low end check. It's honestly mainly just making sure like things are at the right volume in the subregion. We're gonna make sure the overall loudness is sensible, because again, and we're gonna talk about mastering too. And then just kind of consider some less multiband compression, clipping versus limiting rather in each bus. And here's where we're gonna talk about clip to zero real quick. So this is like gonna just tie together all of production and mixing, kind of like what we were talking about here. So essentially what you're gonna do is you're gonna have, I'm moving fast, I'm covering a lot in this video. You might wanna watch this multiple times because this is a system that's gonna last you for years and years and years. But we're gonna have everything in our mix like this. Well, so everything is either drums or it's not drums, okay? All of your drums are gonna be in one group. All of your not drums are gonna be in one group. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna maximize the volume of all of these while it still sounds clean. We're gonna maximize the volume of these while it still sounds clean, and then we're gonna combine those. And we're gonna combine them with side chaining. So what we do is we put them together like this, and as it winds up, we have this really full waveform. But the thing is, it sounds clean, it sounds dynamic because of how we produced and how we mixed. So by the time we get to mastering, it sounds mastered. It's loud enough and it just sounds fantastic, really. What you're gonna do is you're gonna clip or limit every group, every bus. Those are interchangeable. That also is gonna allow us to reduce the dynamic range as we go from source to master, as opposed to doing it at the end with a limiter. Anyone who's telling you to do it that way, unless you make hip hop or like quieter pop music, bro, you better not be listening to that advice in 2026. It's outdated advice. Do not mix quiet and push into the limiter. Okay, if you want to leave a little headroom and push like maybe 4, 5, 6 dB, that's okay. But your kick better not be peaking at -10. Your kick better not be peaking at -18. You're shooting yourself in the foot. If you don't understand why, check out Bathymetrics. She does a great job explaining this in even more detail. But the moral of the story is your kick needs to be at the top anyway, so why would you pull it down and then pull it back up? It's stupid. So that's the idea. We're not going to talk about that much. Again, I'm trying to keep this high level. There's just so much to go into. So yeah, that's the idea with mixing. By the time you get to the end of the mixing phase, everything should be balanced. The focus should be great. And it's already loud. We're already at target loudness. We don't need to make it louder. And this is kind of the core of what I teach this method for. Loudness is a feature of your song. If you're making EDM, loudness is going to be a feature of your song. So don't wait till the end to make it loud. Build the loudness in. Trust me, all the pros do it this way, and they do it this way for a reason. At least I'm going to say 80-90% of the pros, especially the dubstep guys. If you make house, it's like a lot more negotiable, but if you're a dubstep producer, you absolutely need to be working this way. All the big artists I've worked with do it this way. Or maybe they leave a little headroom and push it into the end a bit, but most of the people I've actually worked with do it this way. So we get to mastering. And I think mastering can be summed up with this phrase right here. A Ferrari is a Ferrari before the car show. So like the car show and think about it. You have the car show, you have a car, and you're gonna shine it, right? You're gonna prepare it for the car show. But see, the thing is, it's not the shine that makes it so awesome, right? It's the construction of the car. It's the sleek shape. It's the engineering. It's the color that make it the Ferrari. And then the shine makes it just a little bit better, right? Kind of pushes it over the top, really just brings out the best of all those things. So that is how I want you to think about mastering from now on. If you're an EDM producer, I'm not trying to argue that this is how all people should think about mastering. Again, this is for EDM producers. The purpose of mastering has really shifted as we've attained more digital technology to use at our disposal. If you're really curious about this, I'd check out this article on Wikipedia, but essentially, shit's a lot louder now. So we don't really need mastering as much anymore. Is this in? I wonder if this is like in here. Um, the idea of mastering is that it used to be like just to attain consistency across albums, but now you don't need to like pay a mastering engineer anymore to be loud. And so it's just not as necessary. Like that's kind of the way I think about it. And the louder that your target loudness is, I think the less it really matters, to be honest with you. Like one of my best performing tracks, I forgot to master it. It just sounded like so good from the composition and the production and the mixing. But that being said, you do need to do this and think about it. But just know that it's not going to make you sound professional. It's not going to take you from Edo amazing, and it's not where you should be achieving loudness or what you should be focusing on. Focus on composition and production. Great songwriting and great production are going to take you the farthest. It's kind of like you're making a meal and you're obsessing over the garnish as opposed to the quality of the ingredients and the way that you're putting those ingredients together. It's backwards. It's backwards. Mastering is not the thing that you're missing. Whoops, we're getting lost here. But here's what it is. It's a series of smaller moves. So be careful. You're affecting everything. So it's a series of smaller moves. It's one more step at creating balance and clarity and emphasis. It's garnish. Coming back to that meal analogy again, if you have that really good meal and really good ingredients, the garnish will always make it a little better, right? And so that's kind of what mastering is for. It's already great. It's already fire, and we're just going to put it over the top, make it a little bit better. But the dish is the dish at the end of the day. You can pay someone to do this, and this can be very valuable. But really, it's going to like teach you to be better at mixing and producing by paying someone to do it. Also mastering engineers might have analog equipment and like special equipment and be able to hear your mix in a new way. But I am so do it. But I'm telling you, like, is it gonna make the difference between you having a successful career in music and not? Probably not, bro. Again, it's gonna be the composition and production that makes that difference, and whether or not you use this repetitively and finish a lot of music. But different conversation. So yeah, like this can be beneficial. I've done it a couple times, but do it yourself because you're going to be better at it if you do it yourself anyway. And that's really going to teach you a lot. And you're going to learn like, how is my mix down hitting what I'm doing during mastering? Honestly though, this is like kind of outdated because like the thing is it's already going to be loud by the time we hit the master chain. So the master chain isn't really going to even make much difference. But everything else here you can follow. Again, mastering is just about polish, and that's it. That is the, oh my gosh, that is the effortless electronic music finishing system. That is the 4-phase system. We went through everything: composition, production, mixing, and mastering. I really want you to focus on these two. Honestly, I think this one is probably the hardest and the most important. How do we write a great song? Like, how do we do instrumentation? How do we write great melodies? If your mom was going to listen to your song, what would she get from it? That is like a great question to ask yourself about composition. Like, what is the story you're trying to tell? Who are you? To me, that's composition. And to me, that's the toughest thing to get right. But also when you do get it right, gives the craziest results. Because everything flows down. So the better your composition, the better potential, the more potential your production has. And then the better those two things are, well, now that's going to allow you to have an insane mix. And the better those three things are, now that's going to allow you to have an insane master. But if the composition isn't there, if the song sucks, who cares about the sound design? I mean, maybe some production nerds, but your insane serum bass with 18 oscillators and a bunch of phasers that sounds crazy by itself doesn't matter if the songwriting is bad. Okay? The way that you combine the ingredients doesn't matter if they're expired and from 2014 in your dish. It's going to taste like crap because the ingredients aren't good. So focus on these. Do mixing and mastering, and I promise you're going to be finishing music at like an alarming rate. And it's going to sound very polished. If this was helpful, please drop a like, drop a comment, drop a subscribe. I'm going to be more active from now on. I have a lot to share, as you could probably tell. Really excited to be getting the YouTube going again. I don't gatekeep a thing. We're going to drop the sauce. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk more about branding. We're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about the universe and quantum physics. There's a lot more to go into here that I'm not sharing. And yeah, I think that's all I got for you today. I really appreciate you for watching. Give me a sub, give me a comment, give me a like. It'd be very appreciated. And again, just to say it one more time, if you're looking for more in-depth help with any of this, if you're a serious producer, you're trying to make a living out of this, you're looking to join a community, click the link in the description and we'll get you to where you need to be. All right, that's it. I'll see you in the next one and have a good one.